share the ideas and experience and wisdom that's represented on this stage. The second is to really connect ideas, to connect people, connect theory and reality, connect micro and macro, and again, you're seeing this weaving already of ideas and concepts and endeavors throughout the conversations. And then the third one, perhaps most importantly, is just that to extend the conversation itself. So we're going to spend the first half of our time giving each panelist a chance to introduce themselves and their work to you. And then the second half is really going to be a conversation amongst all of us discussing some of the key questions that have come up even at this early stage in our endeavor. I will note that the bar has been set very high because the questions that were put to us were, what is the most important system level problem and what is the most appropriate response? 1 hour. So, no problem. I'm sure we can do it. So the bar is very high. And again, the format will be each panelist will talk for about 7 minutes about their own work, just to give you the briefest of introductions. And then the second half of our time will be spent in conversation. As for myself, I'm Catherine Collins from M2U Capital. I spent about 20 years in more traditional investment disciplines at Fidelity Investments as a fund manager and as the head of research, and increasingly was working on issues of sustainability and resilience and even regenerative investing. The last 5 years I've been out on my own, going to divinity school, traveling the world as a pilgrim, quite literally reconnecting with the earth, and founding my firm Honeybee Capital, which really starts with the premise that goes against one thing that Woody's fiduciary just said. The premise at Honeybee is that if something matters, by definition, it can't be exogenous. Duh. So really just a much more integrated look at investing, considering sort of mind, body, spirit, and all the factors that go into that, whether they fit on a spreadsheet or not. So again, I'm thrilled to be here, and to start us out is Wes Jackson, who's going to give us an introduction to himself and his work.
How about that? Yeah. Do it? Yeah. Good. It's good to be here. It's always good to go to church, where we have some inspiring messages that I'm going to kind of speak to some of Woody's comments just a moment ago. But there's one question I want you all to have in your minds, and that is, how do you keep money out of carbon trouble? We're always talking about such things as taxing carbon and so on. The second thing I want you to know is that I see both slow food and slow money to be placeholders in the development of the cultural capacity that's going to need to be widespread. It needs it now, but it has serious limitations on it for the moment. So I'm going to give the analogy of the Civil War. The Civil War was fought, as we know, 77 years after the Declaration of Independence. And what was on the line there was that the Declaration of Independence said that we're all created equal. The Constitution, on the other hand, validated chattel slavery. So here was a great problem. Here's the American that is living with the idea of the higher law of morality, and but slavery is legal. So here we were in the so-called land of the free, but we had chattel slavery. 650,000 died in that conflict. And both sides thought that they were living up to the spirit of the American Revolution. Now here we are with global warming, chemical contamination of the land and water. Here we are in a world of highly dense carbon, coal, oil, natural gas. And as long as they dominate, we're going to have fast money. But as I see it in our time, we have got to deal with this higher law of morality, which is to protect the ecosphere within which we evolved, and deal with the legality, the legal fact that it's all right to rip the tops off of mountains, that it's legal to do fracking, that it's legal to drill. So our problem is somewhat parallel to the problem of the Civil War era. And as I see it, just as there was virtue in the plantation South, where some people were freeing their slaves, it's somewhat analogous to the virtue that we have in our time of having slow food and slow money, but it is, as I see it, a placeholder so that once we get the political engagement sufficient enough that we're able to change corporate charters and make it illegal to rip the tops off the mountains, make it illegal to do fracking, to make it illegal to build pipelines across our country. Until we do that, then the opportunity for the flourishing of the slow food, slow money is going to be limited.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Land Institute. What Wes is supposed to do. My name is Mary. I'm from Henry County, Kentucky, and I'm awfully glad to be here today. This is a beautiful place. I've been to Colorado once before in my life, and never to Boulder. So this is delightful. I'm looking forward to going back outside in a little bit. Until about 3 years ago, I had lived and farmed in Henry County, Kentucky all of my adult life. I still live in Henry County, Kentucky. Farming for a living has never been easy, I don't think, but until about 10 years ago, our farm economy and the economy of the small towns in our state was supported by the tobacco program. The program ended 10 years ago, and the place I love most in the world has lost its culture, and the signs of our self-destruction are everywhere. A young person wrote to my father recently and said that he knew what would replace tobacco. It would be dope, and he didn't need growing it. We are in a cultural, agricultural, and environmental freefall. In the meantime, great things are happening in Louisville, our closest big city, we're about 40 miles northeast of Louisville. We have a mayor who referred to his first 4 years in office as 4 growing seasons. We have a public interest broker matching farmers with markets and markets with farmers. The school system is offering contracts to farmers. Because of the work of the public interest broker, my dear friend Sarah Fritchner, who is with me, and I think she's here to make sure that I don't embarrass my home state, institutions are looking for local food. Distributors who are supplying those institutions are reaching out to Sarah to find a supply of locally raised food. A demand study has just been done in the city of Louisville, and I was very glad to hear Woody say that numbers aren't reality, because I think the numbers are sort of fuzzy on this study. But it seems pretty true that the demand for local food in Louisville is 2.5 times what's coming into Louisville. And so, the urban demand for delicious, clean, locally raised food has met the rural culture coming down. I was appointed to the Farm Service Agency Board 3 years ago, a federal appointment to a state board. For the first time in the agency's history, 2 small farm representatives were appointed to that board. I would love to tell you that we've made a big difference, but I can only tell you that I've learned a lot. This being my first hard look at huge USDA programs. At roughly the same time I was elected onto a small grassroots organization that has done some very good work in our state in its 25-year history. However, I was surprised and dismayed to find out that neither board had any idea at all of what was really going on in counties like mine. The grassroots organization is all about very small entrepreneurial farming, and the USDA is only about industrial agriculture. That is to say that the FSA board knows nothing about the demand for local food. The grassroots organization doesn't know enough about what Fred Kirschenman calls agriculture in the middle, or about what is left of farm culture in rural Kentucky. I went to my father and told him what I was seeing and what I thought needed to be worked on. He said, "It sounds like you're starting a center," and I said, "I guess I am." And so here I am. He also said, "You're working to institutionalize my work and it's got to be done." My family's ability to see the whole problem has, I believe, made their work essential. I expect some of you might be familiar with my father, Wendell Berry's work. I know what he seems to be. As he says, my grandfather's work was to put an economy on the ground in Kentucky, and his work was the essential work. My grandfather remembered his father coming home from the sale of his tobacco crop with, after paying the warehouse fees, nothing for a year's work. He remembered farmers leaving the warehouses with tears running down their faces after selling their crops. My grandfather wrote the Producers Program. The program brought parity in the marketplace to thousands of Kentucky farmers, worked for 75 years, and is the reason we have 84,000 small farms in Kentucky today. It was a farm program that worked the way it was supposed to work. It was the economic undergirding for diversified farms and protected farmers in the land from overproduction. It was a price support, not a subsidy, and has been forgotten, I think, because of the stigma of tobacco. At the Berry Center, we are working on farmer education in 3 ways. We have in place a 4-year agricultural school in central Kentucky at a place called St. Catherine College. The curriculum is based on Wes's idea of education for homecoming. We hope to get what is left of generational farm kids who are interested in farming before the University of Kentucky can get them. We are starting a farm school in Henry County for existing farmers to learn something about new opportunities in our area as they come along. We have the very beginning of partnerships with 2 universities that are interested in weaving agrarian thought through their curriculum. I hope that what we do will serve as models for other places in our country. If we are encouraging young people to farm, we must work on decent farm policy. In our state, we are looking at ways the tobacco program might fit other farm products. It is at least a model for any kind of farm program going forward. We have tried the experiment of building urban prosperity by the impoverishment of the countryside and its people, and inevitably we have failed. The result has been impoverishment that is both rural and urban. It seems to me that a lot of very good people want to solve the predicament we are in now from an urban point of view, which allows for a good deal of fantasy about what is going on in the countryside. This won't do. I have found it necessary to say this over and over again. The work of the Berry Center is to take the strength of a local food movement and make it cultural change. I believe that is the essential work of our time. Thank you.